The bustling diner was filled with the comforting hum of chatter, clinking cutlery, and the occasional whir of the coffee machine. A man in his late 40s with sharp eyes and a weathered face sat quietly at a corner booth, sipping black coffee. Across from him sat a young girl, no older than 16, her delicate hands wrapped around a steaming mug of hot chocolate. Her eyes, though unseeing, sparkled with life as she leaned in to listen to her father's low, steady voice recounting a story. The moment seemed ordinary, yet there was an air of something unspoken, a quiet strength that emanated from the man's composed demeanor. Suddenly the door burst open, and in walked a group of bikers, their leather jackets gleaming under the diner's bright lights. They laughed boisterously, their heavy boots thudding against the tiled floor as they made their way toward the counter. "Hey, old man," one of them sneered as they noticed the quiet pair in the corner. "Didn't know they let grandpas and little girls out so late." The veteran didn't react immediately. He took another sip of his coffee, his expression unchanged. The girl shifted slightly in her seat, her fingers tightening around the mug, but she said nothing. The bikers, emboldened by the lack of response, sauntered closer. "What's the matter? Cat got your tongue?" Another biker jeered, leaning over their table, a smug grin plastered on his face. Still, the man remained calm. His eyes met the bikers. Without flinching, his gaze steady and unwavering. "Careful who you talk to," he said quietly, his voice calm but firm. "She's stronger than you think." The biker chuckled, but there was an edge of unease in his laughter. He glanced at his companions, who urged him on with nods and grins. "Oh yeah, what's she gonna do, huh? Blind us with that hot chocolate?" The veteran set his cup down gently, the soft clink echoing louder than expected in the sudden silence. The diner. "You should leave," he said, his voice still level but carrying a weight that made even the diner patrons pause. "You don't know who you're dealing with." Tension crackled in the air as the bikers exchanged uncertain glances. The girl, sensing the rising tension, leaned slightly toward her father and whispered, "It's okay, Dad. I'm ready if you are." The veteran smiled faintly, a hint of pride flickering across his face. "Just stay calm," he murmured, patting her hand gently. "Let's give them one last chance." The bikers hesitated, unsure of how to proceed. The patrons watched with bated breath, waiting to see how the confrontation would unfold. The air was thick with suspense, the calm before an inevitable storm. The veteran wasn't always the composed, reserved man sitting in the diner. His past was marked by battles fought, both on and off the battlefield. Born into a modest family, he had grown up in a small town where values like respect, integrity, and resilience were instilled in him from a young age. He joined the military straight out of high school, seeking a purpose and a way to serve his country. During his years in service, he faced some of the most grueling conditions imaginable. His platoon often relied on his calm demeanor and sharp decision-making skills during critical missions. He earned several commendations for bravery, including a prestigious medal for saving his team during an ambush. Despite the accolades, he remained humble, never one to boast about his achievements. His life took a dramatic turn when his wife passed away shortly after their daughter was born. Left to raise a child on his own, he poured all his love and strength into being both a father and a protector. His daughter, born blind, became his world. He taught her to be independent, instilling in her the same values of courage and perseverance that had guided his own life. There were countless moments when he watched her stumble, fall, and rise again, each time more determined than before. One particular memory stood out. The day she learned to walk home from school without assistance. She had insisted on doing it alone, despite his concerns. He followed her discreetly, watching as she navigated obstacles with her cane, her head held high. When she finally reached home, she turned and said, "See, Dad, I told you I could do it." It was in that moment he realized that her blindness was not a weakness, but a different kind of strength. Back in the diner, the memory faded as he looked at his daughter. She sat poised, her posture confident despite the tension in the room. She had grown into a young woman who faced the world with quiet determination, a reflection of the values he had strived to teach her. The bikers, emboldened by the lack of immediate confrontation, began to escalate their taunts. One of them pulled out a chair and sat backward on it, facing the veteran and his daughter directly. "So, what's the story, old man? You think you're some kind of tough guy?" The veteran remained silent, his gaze unwavering. The lead biker scoffed. "What, you calling the cops now?" "Not exactly," the girl replied, setting her phone down on the table. "Just some friends who might want to say hello." Moments later, the sound of roaring engines filled the air. The bikers turned toward the diner's front window, their smug expressions faltering as they saw a convoy of motorcycles pulling into the parking lot. Each rider wore a leather jacket emblazoned with a distinctive insignia, one that the bikers instantly recognized. "No way, that's the Patriot Riders," one of them whispered, a hint of fear creeping into his voice. The Patriot Riders were a well-known group of veterans who looked out for their own. They weren't known for violence, but their presence alone commanded respect. The lead biker's bravado evaporated as the riders dismounted and made their way toward the diner. At the front of the group was a tall, imposing man with a beard and a stern expression. He entered the diner, his eyes scanning the scene before landing on the veteran and his daughter. "Everything okay here, brother?" he asked, his voice calm but authoritative. The veteran nodded. "Thanks for coming, Steve. Just a little misunderstanding." Steve turned to the bikers, his gaze hardening. "You boys should know better than to mess with a fellow veteran and his family." The bikers shifted uncomfortably, their earlier confidence replaced by unease. "We didn't know," the lead biker stammered. "We didn't mean any harm." "Didn't know," Steve repeated, his tone incredulous. "Maybe you should think twice before picking on people you don't know. Now I suggest you leave before things get any more embarrassing for you." The bikers didn't need to be told twice. They quickly gathered their things and made a hasty exit, their egos bruised but their bodies unharmed. As they sped away, the tension in the diner dissolved, replaced by a palpable sense of relief. As the bikers disappeared into the distance, Steve turned back to the veteran. "You handled that well. Didn't even need us to step in." "Didn't want to cause a scene," the veteran replied with a faint smile. "But it's good to know you've got my back." Steve chuckled. "Always, brother. You've done more for us than we could ever repay." The other riders nodded in agreement, offering words of respect and gratitude. The diner patrons, who had been watching in stunned silence, began to applaud. A waitress approached the veteran and his daughter, her eyes shining with admiration. "Thank you for your service," she said softly, "and for standing up to them." The veteran nodded, his expression humble. "Just doing what anyone would do." As the Patriot Riders prepared to leave, Steve placed a hand on the veteran's shoulder. "Take care of yourself, and if you ever need anything, you know where to find us." "Will do," the veteran replied. "Thanks again." As the riders departed, the veteran and his daughter sat back down. The diner gradually returned to normal, the earlier tension now a distant memory. "You okay, sweetheart?" the veteran asked, his tone gentle. The girl smiled. "I'm fine, Dad. You always taught me to stay calm, remember?" He chuckled. "That I did, proud of you." A nearby customer quietly paid their bill and slipped out, leaving a note that simply read, "Thank you for your service." It was a small gesture, but it carried a profound weight. As they finished their meal, the veteran reflected on the day's events. It wasn't about showing strength or seeking confrontation. It was about standing up for what was right and protecting those you love. In a world that often seemed chaotic, moments like these reminded him of the values he held dear. With a final sip of his coffee, he looked at his daughter. "Ready to go?" She nodded, her hand finding his as they rose from the booth. Together, they walked out of the diner side by side, a father and daughter bound by love, respect, and an unbreakable bond forged through years of shared experiences. As they stepped outside, the night air wrapped around them, crisp and quiet. The hum of distant traffic and the soft glow of streetlights created a peaceful atmosphere, a stark contrast to the tension that had filled the diner moments ago. "Dad," the girl said softly, "do you think they'll ever learn? People like those bikers, I mean. The veteran paused, considering her question. Maybe, maybe not, but that's not why we stand up to them. We don't do it to change them. We do it because it's the right thing to do. She nodded thoughtfully, a faint smile on her lips. You always know what to say. He chuckled, pulling her close for a brief hug. That's what dads are for. As they began walking down the quiet street, a man who had been sitting near them in the diner approached. He looked a little hesitant, but there was gratitude in his eyes. Excuse me, he said. I just wanted to say thank you watching you stand up to those guys. It reminded me that there's still good in the world. The veteran nodded, offering a modest smile. Glad we could help. Sometimes all it takes is a little courage. The man extended his hand, which the veteran shook firmly. You and your daughter, you're an inspiration. She's the real inspiration, the veteran said, glancing fondly at his daughter. She's taught me more about strength and resilience than I ever learned in the military. The man smiled, gave a respectful nod, and walked away. The veteran and his daughter continued their walk in silence for a few moments before she spoke again. You know, Dad, I used to wonder if being blind would always make me feel different. But tonight I realized something. People don't see with just their eyes. They see with their hearts. And you taught me how to see the good in people even when it's hard. The veteran felt a swell of pride. And you taught me that strength isn't about what you can see. It's about what you can feel and how you carry on, no matter what. They reached their car, and as they climbed in, the girl leaned back in her seat, a content expression on her face. It's been a good day, she said quietly. It has, her father agreed, and no matter what happens tomorrow, we'll face it together. As they drove off into the night, the camera slowly panned up to the starry sky, a voiceover playing softly. In a world where chaos and fear often take center stage, it's the quiet acts of courage, the steadfast bonds of family, and the unwavering commitment to what's right that truly shine. We don't always need to fight to show strength. Sometimes, simply standing tall is enough. The screen faded to black, the sound of the car's engine fading into the distance. A simple message appeared. Respect, resilience, family.